Atlanta. You're listening to WCEG Network. We are Veterans Today. Uh, it is time for us we are the Worldwide Empowerment Group. We speak life in the community. I'm Herman Anderson, one of the co-hosts. My other co-host is Anthony Aiken. We have a guest today, Mr. Tacuma Brown. We will introduce him after we finish this introduction. Uh, we are, as I say, the Worldwide Community Network. We uh, put life in the community. We are WCEG Network. This is ways that you can watch us or listen to us. www.WCEG Network, WCEG TV Streaming, WCEG Network, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and WCEG Network. Uh, these my other disclaimer is that we the topics and opinion on this show is the show host and guests, not WCEG Network. We also are a nonprofit, and our business number is 404-490-8646. Good afternoon, Anthony. How are you?
I am just absolutely top of the day, and Herman, it's great seeing you. And I want to say hello to Ms. Greer, our technical manager there, and to our guests that's coming on today. Again, we're here to speak truth into the community, especially in relationship to issues of importance to veterans and their families. So again, it's always a pleasure to see you, and welcome to our show guests from all around the world, because today we have an exciting guest. And Herman, let's get into it.
Okay, I'm going to read my guest biography, and he has a long list of accomplishments. So we'll work with him to pick out one that he want to highlight. Mr. Jerry Tacuma Brown has been living and working and serving in Metro Atlanta for over 25 years. As a proud United States Air Force Vietnam era veteran, Mr. Brown has transferred his leadership capabilities to the government, civilian, and community sectors, building a solid reputation for delivering measurable results, community development, leadership, cohesiveness among community constituents. Known for his commitment and dedication to community, he has successfully demonstrated his ability to work with youth, senior groups that require special needs in business, administration, housing, health, and human services, rehabilitation, and capacity building. Mr. Brown serves as chairman of the board of Male Action Coalition, a 501c3 nonprofit, a nonprofit male mentoring rite of passage initiative. In addition, 206, Mr. Brown launches his own 501c3 nonprofit venture, West Development Corp, in West End of Atlanta. Mr. Brown, you have quite a few activities and accomplishments. So come on and introduce yourself and select the one that you would like to highlight.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to first apologize. I had not planned to be on the highway driving at this time. As you know, this is not a very safe situation to be in, but I had made a commitment to be with you this afternoon. So I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances that I'm confronted with. It's kind of hard for me to talk about myself. I think I would like to start from my beginning. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I was raised in a foster home by a minister and his wife, Reverend Rufus and Katie Saturday. And one of the things that they constantly drilled into me and the other two fosters brothers that were there with me, is that when you grow older, make sure that you work in the community, give to the community. And I'll never forget, I told my brothers when we were away from my parents, well, I can't wait till I get old. I ain't giving nobody nothing. Got tired of hearing it because that's all we were doing when we were working so hard in the community that we didn't have a lot of time for recreation and do all the things that many of the other people, young men our age, were doing. But I found myself once I joined the Air Force, lo and behold, I ended up, once I was assigned to my permanent station in Orlando, Florida, I found myself getting right involved in a situation with an airman that was having problems with the first sergeant. And of course, myself not having any experience and not really paying attention to what the ramifications of what would be by my getting involved, I did it anyway. So with that said, my life has complete adult life since about 19, 20 years old, and till now where I'm 81 years old, and I'm still involved in the DNA. I can't let it go. Sometimes I try, but it doesn't take me very long to realize that this is my assignment. And so I stay busy doing so. My bio mentions a lot of the things that I have done and that I still currently do. I don't know exactly where to go from there. I just do what I feel is necessary to help my people or people that have any types of needs. I try to help resolve them and be involved in the community. Very active in my church. I'm an elder in the church. That doesn't mean that I'm a preacher, because I'm definitely not a preacher. I'm not ordained to preach to anybody, nor am I licensed to do so. Even though a lot of people have asked me to do it, I've never accomplish that. So I think more importantly, I would appreciate and recommend that maybe those of you that have the resume in front of you, if you have a few questions that you might want to ask me, I can appropriately answer them much easier than me trying to pick and choose what I think you might want to hear.
Okay.
So at this time, that's what I think I would prefer to do.
That's fair. Well, since I'm the Army guy and I got two Air Force guys on the line, I'll take the first shot. But we would just like to know, and our listeners would like to know, we know that you're a Vietnam era Air Force, airman. So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement during that particular era and how it impacted your career?
Yeah, I wanted to be sure that that era was included, because I did not serve during the war. I actually went over in Vietnam in 1963 as well, I didn't know this at the time, quite naturally, right out of boot camp, so to speak. And I was sent there as a support person. I was an organizational supply specialist, and they sent us over there, but I had no idea that what we were doing was preparing for a war. That, as you know, that 5 or 6 years later, that's exactly what it ended up happening. And I think that really bothered me, that I was doing something that, had I been asked to do it and knew what it was about, I would have never gone to Vietnam to prepare and to help to do that. So therefore, I didn't have any of course, as an airman, if I wasn't in a plane, most of my activities would have been in a support role. I did join the special services, special forces, if you will, and I had quite a few jumps. That was very exciting, but that's not the best thing that I could say that I came out with that, because I really came out with an attitude about that war.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh, the the way we met was dealing with, we, Anthony and myself, and on this program we talk a lot about claims and helping veterans. And uh I mean, you, tell us a little bit about your situation with the VA and the claim, if you have a claim in, uh how's it going?
I've had a claim in. I did get a partial disability. Um, I don't have a lot of service-connected issues. I still have one that I felt that needs to be looked at again, and so I'm working on that. But I think the the real thing that I'm doing with veterans, if you will, is contacting and identifying those veterans that are not taking advantage of the benefits that they served for or earned, if you will.
Yep.
I run into it all the time. I wherever I go, in many cases, um, I wear my cap, so to speak, just to let people as an identity that if there's a vet in the room, I might be a person that he or she would like to talk to, and that happens quite often. I can't tell you how many people I've met over the years that I have helped to get informed and to encourage them to receive their benefits. Many of them didn't even know.
Well, I agree. That's something that Herman and I and the entire WCEG network family is all about. And
Right.
I like the word that you used, that the veteran earned. We're trying to change that mindset of many veterans that they worked and served in the military, and all of us were told we have a blank check when we get out. We'll take care of you. But a lot of veterans, especially those from the Vietnam era, for whatever reason, did not follow through, and they have a varying amount of illnesses that they could have been taken care of if they'd gone through the system. So I was very glad to hear you say that. And even though during that particular time that you were in Vietnam, they were called advisors. Anyone
Correct.
that went over that time frame were considered advisors.
Exactly.
And like you said, a lot of them didn't know that 5 years later that there would be actual campaigns. But doing the advisory role, we were training them to prepare for battle.
Exactly.
We were preparing them. We were sending special forces over, Rangers, and everyone under the auspices of that advisor name, getting them ready to prepare for war. So let me ask you, since you were there during that particular time, was Agent Orange used during that particular time frame when you were on the ground?
Not that I'm aware of. They have. I've applied for it. I've been examined for it. I do not think so. I think Agent Orange has been identified as something that occurred somewhere in the 68, 67, 68. Well, I was out of there by then.
Okay.
Long before then, I wasn't. I wasn't all over the country. I primarily outside of Saigon, and so there wasn't very much action going on there. Again, we were, as an organization, supply we were just supplying the equipment that people needed upon their requests and so forth. That's the support that I was basically doing. I stayed in the organizational supply field, ASFSC, if you will, until 1964, and then I transferred over to the medical side of it. I was in when I was in Saigon, I was in the 4504 Air Tactical Command, in which was home base was out of Langley Field in Virginia, and I ended up cross training into the medical field, and I was stationed then at the Orlando Air Force Base Hospital.
Switching to another activity that you are involved in, the neighborhood planning unit.
Yeah,
Does that?
yeah. Well, the neighborhood planning unit is one of the most unique situations that exists here in Atlanta that does not exist anywhere else in the country. And again, this will take me a few seconds to try to get this all in. Maynard Jackson, when he was the mayor, decided that he wanted more citizen involvement. Instead of everything city council making all the decisions, and people that there's certain little pockets where you may have the West End, but there's this one little corner that's sort of isolated from everyone. We've tried to encourage those people to form their own neighborhood associations. The mayor's office know what those specific needs are. In other words, we were the eyes on our community. And it came to a point where we were actually, it was perceived that we had power where we had no power, but we do, I guess you could say we had influence though, because we did influence a lot of decisions about what would happen in our city or our particular areas of the city. Now, of course, you know that certain areas of the city, they're going to get what they want anyway, regardless. But those areas that I lived in were not attended very well by the citizens that lived in it. It was, and I hate to say this, but I don't know of a better way to say it, but that's just how indignant it was. It became a dumping ground for those that had the least. Homeless people, if you recall, even when they closed down the homeless shelter on Pine Street, downtown, they took busloads of them and brought them over to the West End and just dropped them off there in front of Dunkin' Donut. This was under Kasim Reed's administration. I said it, and I'll represent it. I'll tell him to his face, and he knows it. I've done that because I mean he dumped and I hate to say that's what they actually did. They dumped them over there, and so we had a lot to try to deal with. Trying to rebuild the West End, it's very difficult to do until now, where gentrification has taken over, and so now people are listening and they're trying to make things of value happen. So I want to go back. I'm rambling because I want to try to get it all in. The NPU, the Neighborhood Planning Unit, were recognized by many of the other large cities in the country. And so what happened is that after I was able to get the Atlanta University Center schools involved, there were other cities that were coming to Atlanta, sending representatives to Atlanta, and they would send them to my NPU to see how it ran. It became became so popular that we actually traveled with students, the police department, the planning department, and myself. We traveled to many, many, many cities, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Phoenix, Seattle, San Diego, Jacksonville, Tampa, just to name a few, Dallas, to explain how the MPU works. And none of those cities adopted it. And the reason they did not adopt it is because they could not see the value of, they felt it was too much work. I think that's what it was. When a gentleman actually moved here, and he said one of the things that happened was they felt like, we know what's best for y'all. You all just stay there. We'll take care of you, sort of, so to speak. Well, Maynard didn't. That's not the way he felt. He felt that we need to have some input into our everyday livable situations in our community. I'll be more than happy to send you the link to additional information about the neighborhood planning unit. Colonel Aikens, I'm sure that you already know. I believe
Yes.
you live in an MPU.
Yes.
But I think that those that are listening and watching, they need to know this. I just attended a book signing last night, and one of the comments that I made in front of all of the people that were there, and it was a very diverse group of people, included us and them. I'm gonna leave it at that. And I let them know very quickly, propaganda has us not believing in each other and not working together as a group. And so therefore we're going to start a civics 101 in the community, because many people, if you stopped a lot of the people on the streets, they say, well, why vote? They ain't gonna do nothing anyway. Well, as I tell them very easily, think about this. If it didn't mean anything, why are they working so hard to suppress us and suppress the vote? Why are they redistricting, lining the boundaries of the neighborhoods if it didn't make any difference? And some of them will say, well, I never thought about that. I said, that's exactly right. You never thought. So we got to do something. We're going to have to do something a little better and a little different. The Board of Education is not going to introduce Civics 101, which that was something that I had to learn when I was in high school. And I'm sure that many of you that's close to my age also have civics. It was available, whether you elected that or not, I'm not sure. But explain how the government works. And most people have no idea. They talk about Obama not doing anything, and that's a lie. Obama did a lot of things, but he couldn't get it done because he didn't have a Congress there to make it happen. Good example, he couldn't get a person on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Nomination, because they wouldn't even they wouldn't even bring it up. So we criticize a person unjustifiably because you don't understand how it works. And so if we could get people to understand how things work, we might be able to get more people to get elected officials in there that's going to represent our interest. And that's the main thing. And that's what I do.
I totally understand, and Herman understands that too. I know that you and I worked tirelessly on the Commission on Veteran Affairs in the area of homelessness. And I know you were very involved with the homelessness aspect. So can you elaborate to our listeners about the homelessness scenario and what we were trying to do on that commission for the city of Atlanta?
Well, there is no excuse for veterans to be homeless, but there are, and that's not just here in Atlanta. That's nationally, and that's a shame that you go serve your country, and then come back and end up under a bridge someplace. That's unexcusable. But it exists. The problem that we have is that, I guess you all have heard of the NIMI, not in my backyard. No one wants homeless people living in their backyard or living among them in their community.
Correct.
It's okay for them to live on the streets as far as they're concerned. You can put them someplace else, but don't put them in my community. And that is where our society is really messed up about our humanity, if you will, because we get it. And so the only thing I do is try to get the veteran off the street to the VA. In fact, VA has to work a little more sincerely about trying to help the homeless veterans. I don't work directly with them at all. Some of the VFW groups are working. There's one over there on Fort Hamilton Road. I understand they're working with them very closely. But that's about all that I know that I do. I'm not as active as I used to be in it. I'm dealing more right now with the youth. Why the youth? Well, simply because I got to have somebody to pass the baton to, and I don't have anybody.
Correct.
And that's because we haven't trained our young men, our young people to do so. So
Well,
that's where my concentration on is right now, is trying to educate the young people, get them to love themselves, respect themselves and their elders. And if they can do that, then they have no choice. Once they do that, they're hooked. That's
you know
the
what?
way I can see it. Yeah.
You bring up a very interesting point. You, Herman, and I are all gray tops. We've been around for a minute. We're in our 70s, and we served in the 60s and 70s in the military. But now we have moved forward, and we've had campaigns since our era. We've had Iraq, Afghanistan, Grenada, Bosnia, all of those different eras. And the Veterans Administration Hospital is being overwhelmed with younger veterans with a series of military service-connected injury. Our era, we had the Agent Orange, we had PTSD, and we had those kind of things. But now we have a younger generation that's not affected by much as Agent Orange, but they're more in the mental side issues that we're seeing increased suicides and drug addictions and homelessness. From your standpoint, what do you think our VA system and federal government needs to do to address the younger age veteran dealing with all of these different kinds of scenarios to get them some help?
Okay, I'll tell you what I told Senator Warnock, and I told Senator Ossoff. Don't go into Washington to send our boys off to war. If you're not going to bring them back to a facility that is ready to handle their situation that they bring back from the war. Give you a good example. And I talk about this all the time. You got this same one hospital, they're still serving people from World War II and Korea. And you still, and now you got more women being served now at the VA hospital than you ever had before. Because if you remember during the Bush administration, when we had what do you call it? Not the depression. Well, a lot of people lost their jobs, and so they lost their benefits and this, that, and the other. A lot of women that were veterans decided, hey, I'm going to go to VA now. I don't have hospitalization. I don't have any hospital insurance and so forth any longer because I don't have a job. So you got this one facility serving the entire state. That hospital, I'm saying, is to serve the entire state. I just ran into a gentleman the other day while I was over to VA. Just happened to be there. He drove all the way down from North Georgia. That's what he said. Now I don't know where he said it took him 2.5 hours to get down here. So he was up there. He was close to Tennessee line if it took him that long. If he had to come all the way down here because of he had to have a bone scan, I think it was. In fact, that's exactly where it was, because that's where I was, because they are making an appointment for a bone density appointment at the VA here on Claremont. In fact, I'm sitting right here on the corner right now. Just so they're not. They can send them off. Most of those politicians did not serve in the military. They
Correct.
attended college. They attended college. Most of them are millionaires. Most of them are lawyers. So they're there to serve their interests. Their interest is more money, and they send us off to fight to protect their interests, and not only to protect their interests, but to invade other people's interests, to take, as they have done everything else that happens, they just take stuff from people and they do it through military. And so I don't know what else to do. We don't have enough people out there campaigning for it. I know when Mrs. Wiggins was over here, I worked with her very hard, and she began to raise a little bit of sand about the different things that she and I was working on. And quite naturally, as you know, they moved her out to South Georgia someplace. She was the head of the state, the clinic over here, and all of a sudden she's no longer there. So I don't know the answer. That's why I'm glad that you all are reconnected with me. Maybe we all can sit down at a round table and have that discussion and see what we could collectively do. As with everything else in our society, we've got a whole lots of veterans interests or groups, and we've got to come together as a collaborative and work on some of the same projects, and I think we'll get them done. So that's where I'm at.
In relation to that, getting voter turnout, and at the same time educating the voters about sending people to the state or to Washington to represent veterans and represent all people. What you think can be done to increase voter education and voter turnout?
Again, education. Education's the key. People have got to know why it's important for them to vote. They're not just going to stop drinking and get up off their couch and turn off the secret storm to go vote if they don't see any value in it. Education has got to be the key. We've got to tell people and with examples how important it is to go vote and to vote. You can rally all you want on the corners, and you can do all the other things. People ride past you, blow the horn, and so forth. That's not it. We spend a lot of time. I go to the barbershop, and I tell you, the conversations in there about what's going on in their lives and politics is ridiculous. It's always basketball, football, or if we get a good black superstar in tennis or something like that, that's the conversation. Yet still, they're not having any conversation about their lives and what their children's lives and their future. And we're not. It's hard to do it just one-on-one. It's got to be a collective effort. That's why we've got to get the right politicians in the right place so they can demand that okay, give you a good example. There are groups demanding taking certain books out of the classrooms, out of the schools. Am I correct? That's because they came together and doing it. That's what we've got to do. The same thing. Nothing different. The exact same thing. We have got to get together as a collective and work together to come up with what it is we want to work on, prioritize what it is that we want, and that's what we've got to do. Other than that, we can talk about it all day long, and we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, there are people like Elder Brown, and there are people like Pastor McGee, and there's people like Herman Anderson, and all those individuals that are out there being a stumping ground supporter of making sure that the public and the community understand the importance of getting things done for veterans. And if you think about it, there are over 700,000 veterans in the state of Georgia. That's a significant number. That's a significant number. What Herman mentioned earlier about going to vote, it's astonishing to me that we don't vote. We complain,
Um,
but we don't vote.
okay, I'm going to apologize. It's 12:35, as they're blowing up my phone here for this luncheon. Uh, and I do apologize. I'm going to have to get off.
Okay.
Can we? Can we? Uh, I'm willing to set up a time where we can begin working together. Um, and I will be more than happy to be more involved in this radio and collaboration, or this media, if you will, to get the word out. I'm willing to help do that.
That's
But
fine.
right now, I've got two groups right now that's waiting on me, and I'm about 5 minutes late, and they know that's uncommon for me to be late.
Do what you got to do, sir. Appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
thank you all. All right, take
Thank
care.
you. Thank
All
you.
right,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Herman, you brought up some really interesting points in regards to the thing that just resonated with me about what you stated, the voting block. Right now, coming up on Veterans Day, what better time to even speak more about veterans involvement and getting the community even more involved with taking care of veterans, especially when it comes to homelessness, access to medical care, not only for the male, but also the female veterans, and making sure that the VA system is accountable. As we all know, when you rank VA hospitals, our hospital in Atlanta has always had the number one, and generally number one around saying that you're great. But in this
Yeah.
case, number one is not great.
We do have to do that, and also as we keep doing is there's a lot of veterans that not even in the system, and that's part of the education process also. And like he said, just when we out, if we have on a veteran campus, someone see you, a lot of times they will approach you, and that will get them on their journey to getting the service that we have earned.
Correct. It's very important that we get the services that were earned. I mean, I'm constantly at the VA hospital as a result of my disability over at Claremont Road. And I make sure that I go. Yes, I did receive my rating back in 2011, but that didn't mean that I needed to stop. I have issues that remain today. So if I needed to get them done, that means I need to go and be seen. So all our veterans out there, if you just don't drop the ball, if you've just gotten a rating saying that you either 100%, and people need to understand there's a major difference between being 100% and 100% total and permanent and unemployable. So you really need to understand the vernacular, the rules, the terminology, and do what you have to do to take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, and one point to that is being 100% and not going to get the appropriate checkup and keep your records update is you will be reduced.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it done more than one occasions. And I've been told on a number of occasions too, be careful in making sure that what you're trying to do has substantial evidence, because you can go back for a reevaluation. In some cases, it can be reduced.
Exactly.
And once it's reduced, it can take you a number of years to get it back to where it was before. So it took me almost 2 years to the date. Once my paperwork was filed, with the Veterans Administration to be approved for my rating. And as you know, since then, we've added supplemental ratings, supplemental documents to and get increased benefits, but gosh, denial.
Yeah, that's what happened with mine. And like you say, I've added supplemental documents for that. And you have to, as you said, when you add in the supplemental, you need to make sure that you stay in that lane. If you give them a chance, they will reevaluate your whole rating.
Correct. Whole rating. And it's also very important for a veteran, if he or she goes to VA to be evaluated, that they get a copy of what the physician is stating about their particular visit. That's your right, to find out what is being stated, because in most cases, the physician who's evaluating you does not understand the VA process as far as ratings are concerned. So there's certain things that need to be placed in your medical file based while you're there. So when it's being evaluated, they have a good picture of why they're evaluating for a particular area. So it's very important, excuse me, it's very important for you to be involved with your medical care, with your primary care provider, but it's also very important for you to understand what that provider is stating about you that's going forward for your particular rating.
That's correct, because I've had people, when they go to QTC to be evaluated, and they didn't have a copy of the doctor's notes or rating. Then what's actually in the record is not what they thought that was in there.
Correct.
And
Correct.
That's when you get denied.
That's correct. And then that leads into another scenario, that there are a lot of veterans out there trying to do things themselves. That's okay if you have the time and you have the expertise. However, there are organizations out there that are third-party organizations that are called veteran service organizations that can help you. And Herman, you and I know quite a bit about it. And I know your organization has quite a bit to do with helping veterans, and even Pastor Brown with him, Pastor McGee, with him trying to help veterans. But you need a third-party organization, a third-party individual that could sit down with you to make sure that you're providing what's needed to be properly evaluated for your rating. That is so, so important.
That is, in a lot of people, when you decide to do your own, like I say, if you got the time and you go take the time and do it, that's okay. But the chance of you doing your own and getting it through the first time is not good.
It's not good.
And even when you do it with a veteran service officer, someone that's an expert, it's still not that great. So
not that good.
In today's environment, technology is important too. So I mean, I would say the younger veterans that are still up on technology, that helps if you decide to do your own.
Well, it does.
But people like us, I mean, I would recommend help, because it's more of it is automated now than it was 10 years ago. So you have to be, because doing it with the automated system, and you have no advisor to ask on some of those questions. So if you interpret it different than what it means, that's gonna hurt you.
Yeah. The veteran also needs to understand too that here, let's say here in Atlanta, give me the scenario. You're going over to put your documentation in with the Veterans Administration Regional Office here in Atlanta. Again, 700,000 veterans in the state of Georgia that they theoretically could have contact with. But in some cases, your file is not evaluated here in Atlanta. It could be sent somewhere else in the country as a neutral party to review your records. So they're reviewing your recs basically on what they see, black and white, regulations, page number, etc. So Herman Anderson in the military, last four numbers of the Social Security number could be one of 10,000. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to make sure that your information is up to date, it is accurate as possible, that you're involved with your VSO to make sure that your story is told the way it is. Because a lot of veterans are under the myth, let's say, well, hey, I'm at 90%. I only need 10% more. Wrong answer. That is so far from the truth, because you need to be able to show that something was missing for the first 90% rating, and it's documented in such a way that you may need an additional 10, 15, or 30 additional points to get to that 100% rating. So don't go on that myth that I only need 10% more. Wrong answer.
No, and also it's, if there is you're at 90% and you start having a problem with something that wasn't in there originally, so it's additional information. Like you say, you just don't decide that I want to be reevaluated, and without being very clear why you don't want to, excuse me, tell them that you want to be reevaluated. You want to tell them that you want to provide additional information, or you got another illness that you
want. Very key point, Herman. Very key point. Thank you for making that statement, because that is very, very good. Also, too, for any veteran out there that has submitted a claim and it comes back from the VA that you're rated as 0 at this time, and that there's not going to be any additional entitlements. Well, that's a good thing, because the VA has recognized that you have a problem, a situation that's documented, but they need more information. So let's say you had aggravated disc in your back. At that particular time, it didn't warrant a rating. But since then, you've gone back a number of times, being seen by your primary care provider, may have had surgery, or may have had additional things done to help you with that particular health issue or concern, and you're going to be reevaluated. What's the word that you stated earlier, Herman? You're going to be checked.
Right.
That 0% can now move up into a higher number, because the VA has already documented that you have the issue, but at that particular time, it didn't warrant an increase in your rating. So keep all those things in mind. Just getting a 0% rating is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
And a lot of things that happens, like since we've been doing this show, people they get a 0 rated, they just kind of drop it and go 9 or 10 years before they go back again. And that
right,
you should move on it right away. And one thing also, when you get a rating, whether it's 0 or whether it's 50%, if you read the denial letter, it actually gives you some information that can help you resubmit it.
Correct. That is so important. They always give you the opportunity within a time frame of 30 days to a year to send us supplemental information to be reevaluated again. So, as we said earlier, if you, Herman Anderson, Anthony Aiken, have documented VA visits to see your primary care provider for issues that you have, please go. Because if you're not going and then you reapply, and they say, well, Herman, you've had this back issue that was identified in 2011, but we didn't see you again until 2022. What's going on? They don't have a track record of you going in to be seen for this issue. And each time you go in, there's an evaluation by that primary care provider that can assist you in moving to that next level or increased level with your compensation. So it's a ball game. Yes, it can be frustrating, but there are rules of engagement. And you know, the Army guys understand that. I don't know what your Air Force guys say, but in the military Army side, there are rules of engagement you got to follow.
You got to follow them, and
you got to follow them.
You, it's like when you are admitted to the military, you got to qualify. So to qualify, you got to have your DD 214 as a veteran.
You're right about that, man. Mine's on my phone. It's been on my phone for years. So if I'm injured in the street or somewhere and I'm around and they say, well, this guy's a veteran. Yes, here's my DD form 214 if I can still speak. You know, that they can check it out. Because now I'm in another ball game, another scenario to go into the VA system that can help me and my family. So that's important.
And a couple of ways to get it is va.gov. Go to va.gov and request it that way. And you can in Georgia and in most states, there's a Georgia Department of Veterans Service, and they can get it for you also.
Well, Herman, I've been restraining all show, not to say those words, but stop being a knucklehead. Yeah. Go out there and do what you need to do to get the compensations and benefits that you have earned. Go to the VA and request what I'm looking for, evaluation to start the process. So if you have not gone, please consider going there and getting an exam so you get into systems. And there's so many veterans that served in Vietnam, boots on the ground, in the four core areas of Vietnam that still have not filed for Agent Orange compensation. To this day, they still haven't done it.
Well, that's true. And like you stated, get an exam, and also you have at the hospital, you have the medical division and you have the compensation division.
Correct.
And if you're not in the system, you need to do an intake. With that process, you have your DD form 214 and you request, and there are services officers at the VA also. So yeah. That's while you're at the VA, you can do both.
Yeah, just think about it. The VA came out about 5 or 6 years ago saying that we have 15 plus documented illnesses associated with Agent Orange. And if you were in Vietnam during this particular time frame, that's not even a debatable issue anymore. With veterans with prostate cancer or heart injuries or liver injury, all these things that are associated and documented, that the VA said, yes, these are viable illnesses that affected Air Force, Army, Marines, and Navy personnel, that there's no issue now. So you need to be in the Agent Orange database, start that process, and receive the compensations and disabilities that you earn. I know of a retired airborne infantry officer that served in Vietnam right at the height, 68, 69, and got injured with a Purple Heart. And it wasn't until 2005 that he was being seen for illnesses related to Agent Orange and finally got his compensation. From 68 to 2005. And to think about all the back pay and all that stuff that he received.
Also, another point to that, the PAC Act actually added a couple of items to the list of things that are available to qualify. So even if you are in the system and you are on getting benefits or whatever, it's a good idea to update your claim now, because the PAC Act is added items that you could qualify for.
Yeah, and I think you need to really ask some good questions. Again, we said we want you to be due diligent and careful about what you're doing, because there's someone back there in the background saying they want to take Herman Anderson and Anthony Aiken's money back. So you want to make sure that what you're doing is strategic, supplemented with documents, medical evaluations, etc., for your particular scenario. Everyone's different. Every veteran situation is different. So for the hallway VSOs, the guy sitting in the living room or the guy in the waiting room, they can provide you some information to spark your interest. But go to the profession, go to the organization, explain it. Now, I've heard horror stories. Some people are very upset. Oh, they didn't help me or whatever. We'll find another VSO. Just because you're having a difficulty with that one, veteran of foreign wars, there are others to go to. So just don't use that as an excuse to continue to be a knucklehead and not follow through. Follow through. It's not, for every no, there's an answer for yes.
Well, that's good. We're running out of time, and
What?
Veterans Day is coming. Veterans Day is coming up, so we want to wish veterans and their families happy Veterans Day, and also, as our producer told us, the time is changing.
Yep.
Tomorrow, Saturday night. So turn your clocks back 1 hour.
Yep, waking up in the dark. Don't like it. But Herman, it's always good to see you. Let's give a shout out to Miss Penny Rogers for her vision and moving this thing from just the WCEG radio to now the WCE Network, where we have so many other great hosts on providing truthful information to our community. So we want to give her a shout out. And of course, Ms. Greer, who keeps us online, our technical supervisor, our producer, to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I salute her. Notice that Army salute, Herman. And have a great Veterans Day, my friend. Okay.
That's all for today. Have a great week in Atlanta.